Welcome to another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle King, and the goal of this podcast is to help you create an ecosystem of academic excellence. Through inspiring conversations, practical strategies, and actionable insights, we empower educators, change makers, and leaders just like yourself, foster trust, collaboration, and ultimately create an ecosystem of academic excellence. How do we effectively raise the bar for student success in the classroom? I believe that it starts with us having a heart of harvest, us starting with our why or starting with heart, or really being able to have a mindset of contagious culture. But I believe it's also important to design environments in the classroom for students to be able to thrive, for students to believe that they can be more than statistics, data, and even their own lack of belief within themselves. Today, we have an educator, a friend, a colleague, and somebody that I highly respect, somebody that is special to me, that is doing some absolutely amazing and cutting edge work within the classroom. She is somebody that is not just shifting the culture within her classroom, but her strategies, her belief, her light that she brings to an educational institution is the reason that this school is thriving, is the reason that students are learning, is the reason that students have the seeds that are planted for them to be able to create absolutely amazing leaders of the future. So let's welcome Qiana Daniels to the stage. Qiana, how you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
I
How are you?
appreciate you so much. So, I know you, but our listeners don't know you. And I have so many questions. I know we've worked beside each other for a period of time, but I want you to introduce yourself and how did you even get into education?
That is so funny because when I got this opportunity from you this morning to actually talk, that question popped up in my mind. Like, how did I get here? I really, and I know in like the realm and sphere of educators, people say this is a calling. And it really is a calling. I'll say this. I grew up in an intact family, mother and father. My dad was a pastor, and my mom was the first lady. And I used to like do a lot of imaginary play or dramatic play, right?
Hmm.
Two things that I did playing with my imaginary friends was one was I was a teacher and the second was a preacher. And it wasn't until like recently that those things coalesced for me, that they actually married. Like I had an aha moment and it's like, wow, like those are really pretty much one and the same. It's an opportunity to touch people's lives and to kind of like transform them through the power of just power of God. That's my core. And just showing them how to access and enter into spaces that they didn't think that they could possibly do it. So I entered that route. And I know that's like the really big entrance into education. So I really think it's a vocation, it's a calling, and it's a ministry. But I kind of did it the long way. Like initially, I went to college to become an educator. And I changed my major from English education into special education.
Hmm.
And it was just so lofty, like trying to navigate idea at the time and just like all of those things. And I was pregnant with my first kid. I was 19. And it was just too much for my brain. I fell in love. I fell in love with like child development, Vygotsky, Erickson, all of those theoretical components of education, but it wasn't my thing. So I took the long way around. It took me a minute to graduate college because I started doing ministry full
Hmm.
time for 20 years and I traveled the world. And then I was still in school and then I got my degree. And I was like, I want to do something. So I got into education through volunteerism in my children's school, became teacher, educator of volunteer of the year. And the principal was like, you have something. We need you working here. And I was like, what is that? Like, what? Like, so she got me a teacher assistant position with some special needs kids. And then it kind of moved into substituting full time, and schools that I went to was just like, how can we get you here? And then initially, I did the non traditional route of becoming an educator. Like back in the day, it used to be lateral entry. Now it's
Yeah,
like
a lot
route.
easier.
Yeah, you have to get like a residency.
Yeah.
license. And so I did that, and that's how I got into education. And so God makes it look like I've been here longer than I have been, even though it's been a short time.
That is, I never knew this. But it's so crazy how aligned we are because I came into education. So when I graduated college, I went to work for Johnson and Johnson. So Janssen Pharmaceutical Sales, and then I was in their program, their leadership program, and then transitioned because my son was living in Charlotte at the time. So I needed to get to Charlotte some type of way. Wrote a few books in college, but then had a nonprofit organization that I was leveraging in college to work with schools and volunteer-based work. So then moved to Charlotte, was driving down Mallard Creek Road. There was this building on the right, Queen City STEM School at the time. Now it's Triad Math and Science Academy. So Queen City STEM, I literally pulled into the parking lot, walked in. I said, hey, I'm new to Charlotte, want to volunteer with students. And I met with the principal and I started volunteering like every week, twice a week, and then started working within their JA Biz program. And then literally the rest is history. By the end of that year, I was director of marketing. Then next year, I was the dean of students. So then it's one thing led to another just by being, it's really interesting because, and it's similar to your story, when you're called to do something, it happens even though you don't go the traditional route. Talk to me about people that are in education that haven't gone the traditional route, how it's still possible for them to be able to make an impact for students, even though they don't have the traditional degree program or have taken the traditional route that most educators have taken.
I honestly believe that is a part of the story, right? Like that's a part of like that thing that makes you who you are, and not taking the traditional route. It adds value to who you are and context. And oftentimes jobs look for experience. So like people like myself, like you, who didn't take the traditional route, who are like very audacious in just living life, it adds value because I think that I'm going to get to your question, but this is like what sparked my mind. When we have educators who have not taken the traditional route, I think it's incumbent upon leadership to ask them their story. How did
Mm,
you get here? Because I think once you realize that people didn't take the traditional route, it opens up a myriad of things about who that person is, what their why is, and the value that they bring to the environment where they are.
that's good.
And I think that that's necessary. One of the schools that I came from prior to where I am now, there were like people who managed. There was like an executive that was just like hiding out in tech. And he was like, I managed Fortune 500 companies for the last 20 years. And his, like, they just like overlooked this man. But this man, what he brought was his toolbox of experiences of just, just everything that this man had with him made the environment a lot better. And so when you figure out what people, you don't have to know all of their story, but just like what made you come here? How did you get here? Was it traditional, non-traditional? It just adds value to who you are as an educator. Like for me, I'm very transparent with my students. I teach sophomores. I teach I teach English, and a lot of people feel disconnected from English because they feel that you have to come with all of these things when you're in an English classroom. And I'm like, no, that's not what we do here. Like it's my job to help support you to be who you
Exactly.
envision yourself as a student. Like I tell kids, like, your parents paid for me to be here. Y'all, I work for y'all. When you
Mm,
say things to students like that, they're like, wait a minute, nobody's ever said that before. And I'm like, no, it's real talk. Like if you're not learning, if you're struggling, press me to earn my money today.
that's
Make
good.
me work for you. And it opens up something in students where they're comfortable. You create an environment that makes them comfortable to fail. I said, listen, you don't know me, but let me help you out. I have a track record of success, and I show them. And then secondly, I say, it took me 12 years to get a 4-year degree, but I was working on something. So I wasn't just doing nothing. And then the next thing is, I failed college math 7 times, but I showed up each time on the front row, met new people who were anxious. But when you see my degree, nobody has ever asked me, like, how many times did you fail a class? Nobody
Yeah,
asked me that. You just
that
see
is
my
so good.
graduation year. You see the year that I graduated with 2 kids as a single mom. I have a story.
Qiana, that's so good. I think you just overlooked it. Oh my God. It's like no one ever asks you the failures. They only see the result, they only see the end. Oh my gosh. That is so good. How do we become better though at that? Where we're comfortable, because there's a lot of people listening right now that aren't even comfortable sharing their 8 times that they took math one. They're not comfortable with talking about that they did it with 2 children. They're not comfortable with talking about these various challenges that you hurdled over and identified as opportunities for you to be able to still make it, these motivating factors. How do you even get, how did you get to that point where you are comfortable sharing that story and that testimony?
Oh man, that's good. Some things are meant to be concealed, and some things are meant to be revealed.
Hmm.
But coming from that church context, testimony, and when you really feel like God did this for me,
Hmm.
you're not afraid to tell that. And I don't want to get like too deep into religion or anything like that, but that's who I am. You can sense that when you
Yeah,
when you meet us. But the reality is, I'm connected. I think that we all are part of the tapestry and the fabric. Like, we're all connected, we're all related. And so there are some of us, like, some stuff that I went through was for me, and it was an expensive experience, right? I paid for it, in a myriad of ways. And the other part of that is that some stuff I keep conceal and some stuff I reveal. And so knowing what to reveal and what to conceal
mm,
gives you the ability to build rapport with people. And when you are in the business or the ministry or the calling of vocation of people, you have to tap into a place where they trust you.
that's
And
good.
so when we presentation is everything. So we work on making sure our brands are top tier, that they're the pulchritude of them are just so people are attracted to them. But that's not enough, because if you have children and you give them stuff at Christmas time, like when my kids were little and I packaged up the gifts, they didn't care anything about like my pretty packaging. They tore that stuff off, and it baffled me that they really wanted to play with the box versus the expensive toy when they were like super little. So I just really like to get to the heart of the matter, and I'm not afraid anymore. There's no, like, I'm super bold. I'm direct. I'm bold. And there's nothing, and I'm free. Freedom. In short, it's freedom. It's free indeed kind of freedom that allows me to be able to share my failures because I got over them and I'm no longer bound by them. And I feel like it's my family and my context that has given me the voice. My dad grew up in South Carolina as a sharecropper with 6 sisters who were older than him, and he's one of 11, and my mom is one of 10. But they were super incredible and intentional in rearing me. They said, "You're going to be a gift. Your voice is going to be valuable." And they put that in me. So that boldness comes from my slight activism, my slight ability to just say, "Hey, I failed, so you don't have to. So let me tell you this." You know
That's
what
good.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
I own it. Ownership.
Kiana, talk to those educators though that are listening right now and saying, like, wow, I wish I had what she had. Like, wow, like I don't, like, yeah, she's just like that. She was, she's either born this way or she just has that thing that I don't have. Like, how do you, what would you say to that person that's listening right now that wants that boldness, wants that sense of freedom, wants that ability to stand firm in their stories and stand on their failures? What would you say to that person?
I would definitely say they need a cow king. Get you one.
I appreciate you.
Everybody needs a Kyle, like, for real. You need a network.
Hmm,
You have to, you can't be running on fumes as an educator. And I think educators, we have to have people like yourself who check in on us,
hmm.
because somebody who relieves us to get that bathroom break, because if you know, teacher bladder is real.
Teacher
Because
batteries,
we're
man.
constantly giving to other people that we forget about ourselves and we feel guilty. So you need a network of people. And because I entered into education the non-traditional route, I started building a network of people.
That's good.
And I recognized, I knew that I had some kind of way and perspective of looking at things differently that people were able to catch it, because not only am I in secondary education, I teach in higher ed as well. So I have taught from pre-K all the way up to college. So I teach, like I've taught, my oldest student has been 85 years old
Mm.
and a male, and I teach in the Christian context. So I teach at a Christian college. And like every time people say like you make it so I can get it. Well, it's not supposed to be a got you. And that's the thing. Think about the worst teacher. If you are an educator, think about the worst teacher you've ever had and think about all those characteristics. Did they build you or did they destroy you?
Mm.
And then think about the opposite. Like, what does the ideal teacher look like for you? And somewhere in between that, you have the opportunity each day to build the better version of yourself. Like, and
That's
sometimes we fail at it. Sometimes we're horrible at that. But you have to build a network. You have to listen to the podcast. You have to be cutting edge. You have to be 21st century oriented to recognize that we are literally in one of the best and worst times of education. I feel like I'm talking like two tales of
mhm,
the Tale of Two Cities. Like that
mhm,
introductory sentence of the Tale of Two Cities is so impactful. We're literally living in the best and the worst times of education. And what are you going to do with that? You have to show up and say, I'm going to dominate. And how do I do that? I have to build a network. I have to look at what's out here. I have to create something that's going to give my students what they need to be 21st century citizens. It's not just about reading this text. It's about teaching students how to think critically. It's about teaching them how to show up and advocate for themselves as an adult and teaching them. I teach to the four domains: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So my
mm.
kids do that in my classroom. People walk by my room and they're like, how did you get these kids to read a book for 15 minutes? I'm baffled. Like, what do you mean? They're going
Exactly.
to do what I asked them to do.
Yeah. I like what you just said. They're going to do what I asked them to do versus a lot of educators' perspective is that they're going to do what I tell them to do. I also love how you share your failures, not just with your audiences, but also with your students and give them the opportunity to have more of an ownership in their classroom as well. Who is the person that you would give credit to that helped you in your first years of education have this mindset of including students in this educational process? And what did they tell you and how has it shaped who you are today?
That's a good question. I will be honest with you. I think that whole concept of including students just kind of like naturally came to me.
Mhm.
I don't think that there was a specific person that that was like, you need to include the students.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, there was a teacher in high school when I was in high school that taught. I went to Carver High School. So it was like one of the historical Black high schools of my city. My mom graduated from there. My granddaddy went there when it was in elementary school. My eldest kid graduated from there. I went there. I like failed going to private school. I failed the private school test just so I could go to the historical Black high school. And I finally told my mom that like a few years ago. I haven't told my dad. Like my parents were like setting me up to be like so. And the funny part
Wow.
is like God has a sense of humor. I ended up like life is a full circle. I ended up like not going to that middle school or their high school, but I graduated from their college. Like it's so crazy. Like how
That's good.
how
That's
how like
good.
it's wild. But Storm Foreman was very very instrumental and she wasn't even my English teacher. People just started thinking that we were the same person. So I'm a high school student who looks like this teacher, and they would like walk up to me. We were the same. Like I can show you later. You and I can talk about this later. But she and I looked exactly alike. Like it was crazy. Glasses, small frame, and
Wow.
she was a powerhouse of an educator. And she just took me in and became like a big sister. And to this day, it's over 20 something years later, and we still talk about education. So the reason I'm even an English teacher is because of her. Like
Mm.
she's phenomenal. But one another lady that like really taught me how to be is several. It's I mean like it's Cologne, Michaela Cologne. It was just like so many awesome women. I can't even begin to name them all. But like I told you, I built this network, and I started recognizing that the more real I am to students, like modeling for them, sitting
Yeah.
alongside them, checking in with them. Like I maybe Teach Like a Champion brought that out. Maybe I just discerned something from Teach Like a Champion
Yeah.
that helped me realize that when you walk alongside, and that's coaching. I tell students all the time, I'm not really your teacher, I'm your coach. I'm going to walk alongside you and help you get this as many times as you need it until you get it. And then that component of encouragement and filling their buckets, oh my gosh, they
That's
will
good.
do anything for you.
I'm in your classroom, first day as a student. What do I expect? And what are the routines, rituals, and steps that you take to building quality relationships with your students so that you can design this environment that you're talking about now?
Okay, so day one, I'm greeting students at threshold. I'm saying good morning. I'm asking them to sit down. And then there's this, of course, there's this bell ringer that's there that's talking about, think about your best experience with education and your worst experience and let me know what that's about. So they're like thinking through and reflecting on their best and worst experiences. And they're waiting until I get everyone in. Then I do the typical stuff. You're just due to attendance, all of that. And then I just say, hey, Miss Daniels, here's your syllabus. We go over the syllabus. And then we don't have rules. We have class expectations.
Mm.
And so agreements first. We build agreements. So also with that bell ringer about thinking about your best and your worst experience with education, I also have them access what they think a safe classroom looks like. And so they're thinking and they're writing down at least 3 to 5 things. And if they can't get those things out, at least two of those things that they need for a safe environment. And then we come together and then before we come together, I have them partner with someone, if they're a little apprehensive, I'll talk to them through it like, hey, let's just see what if you got the same thing that this person got who you don't even know. And then we'll come together as a whole group and we'll create our class agreements. We'll have about 5 of those things. And what's interesting is people that they don't even know have some of the similar things that they need for class safety. And that moment right there is tantamount because it allows students to see how we kind of need some of the same things to feel like we can grow and get what we need done in this space. And then I support them in that regard. And then we look at that worst experience from that do now or that bell ringer activating activity. And I tell them, hey, you don't have to share it out. A few of them will share it. And then sometimes I share one of my worst experiences. And then after that, we tear it up and throw it in the classroom. And I'll tell them, hey, that's not what this is. This is a space where we are cultivating what we need here, and those 5 agreements are what is going to carry us for the next 9 weeks or the next 18 weeks. And as long as you remember that, we're going to be cool. We're going to be fine. So then my routines, I build my routines and I teach them my expectations. I'll tell them that your brain is wired for high for learning, for optimal learning. Your brain is created for that. And I teach students how to learn. I give them just little excerpts and show them a little bit of research about brain science. And that's how I get their buy in. And they begin to want to learn and work. And I tell them it doesn't matter what you came in here with. You're going to leave with some tools that you're going to be able to carry when you leave out of this classroom to every other classroom that you have and into life. And so we build around that. I show them the curriculum. I show them that reading really, there's research around reading. So I talk to them about what that looks like. And I talk to them about what their reading lifestyle is. They'll do a reading lifestyle inventory. And I'll tell them how important it is to incorporate words because you need it in your life. And the more you have, the better opportunity you are at communicating. So we'll do those kind of things. I talk to them about mindfulness. I talk to them about accessing their feelings. How do you feel when you're frustrated? And I give them those words and I give them context for all of the different touch points to just be a holistic student. So that's what it looks like in my classroom. And another thing, lastly, beyond day one, I start to gradually release students into ownership and owning the classroom. Like I'll do a mini lesson, 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes at the most. And then students work together. I guide them through it. They start to work together. And by week 3 of being in my classroom, students are teaching and they're at that board and
Mm.
they are modeling. And I'm sitting back because they're doing the heavy lifting, not me, because I've already modeled. And with English, the beautiful thing about English is that our standards spiral. So no matter what text I put in front of them,
That's
I
all.
can constantly unpack those standards with them.
Of all of the things that you said, because you essentially just gave a master class for all educators that are listening to building relationships, these rituals and routines in their classrooms so that students can ultimately thrive. Of all of those things, there's somebody right now that's like, oh my gosh, I have to rewind. I have to pause this to write all of this down. Where should they begin? And what is the most important step in all of what you communicated in designing this environment?
You need to begin with with like, why are you doing what you're doing? Because first of all, nobody got an education to be rich. We're not here to be like, I want to be rich. Like, okay, okay.
That's the
I,
truth.
I agree with you. I touch and agree with your sentiments or
Mhm.
your what it is. But the reality is you have to know your why, and you have to recognize that you are a champion for students.
Mm.
You have to know who you are. Your job, you can make or you can break. You're building a person that's going to be a viable contributor to society. You spend more time with them than some of these students that come in here in our classrooms, in our safe places. They have just left horrid situations. They may not have eaten last night, and I keep snacks. Like, I'm not their parent, but some of them see me as a parent figure. Some of them see me as a big sis. Some of them see me as an auntie. Some of them see me as a friend. Some of them see me as a confidant. Of course, I tell them, before you open up to me, recognize I'm a mandated reporter. I have
No,
to
that's the truth.
tell what you say to me. And I'm not snitching. I'm not snitching. I have to tell it for your safety. So I'm low key ops. So determine whether you want to talk to ops or not. Because if it's
Exactly.
bad enough, I'm going to tell for your
I gotta
safety.
share this.
I gotta tell it, right? Like, so they have to, first of all, you have to recognize that their starting is a lot of times is difficult for people
Mm,
because it's like a lot in their minds about, they think that it's so big or it's huge. Just start, show up. But how you show up is important. Like, find a teacher that you admire. Hopefully you have some out there.
mm,
Maybe watch them on some, video casts, podcasts, whatever those things are. And you can emulate. You can take things like add to, we do emulate. Like, maybe, okay, having imagination should not die when you're an adult. And maybe that's the part of me
mm,
that's like a kid.
that's good.
Like, I still have an imagination, and I build on that every single day. Like, tap into that kid at heart. What you needed when you were that child's age, become that. So that's a starting point. Journal through it, be reflective every single day. Sometimes I've had to stop in the middle of my lessons and say, hey, kids, this sucked. How I intended this did not come out like I intended it. And so now I have to pivot in the moment. And thank God that I have the ability to like get downloads in the moment, and I'm able to pivot. And when you do it any length of time, you kind of know what to pull from and what to add in the moment and in that spot. So I would definitely tell them to start with introspection, start with how you show up, start with care and love for yourself so that you can show up to be a better person for the child that needs you to be whole. And you don't
Mm,
have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect, because that's subjective. But the reality is that you have to be able to see yourself as a skilled practitioner of your content.
that's good.
And it's constantly changing, so you should at least be 2 years or 4 to 6 years ahead of your students. You have to kind of be an expert. You have to constantly be studying what's out there, so that when students ask you the questions, you should know. And when you don't know, be honest, like, wait a minute, I'm going to jot this down because that was an excellent question, and I'll get back with you. I need to find out what this is. I haven't thought about that. And that's happened with me this week. Some of my students, like one student, I'm teaching Pride and Prejudice, and one of the students says, I noticed, this is an honors class. She says, I noticed that there's like an interesting trope between Beauty and the Beast. Is that the new Pride and Prejudice? I said, you are creating something that has not been created. It's going to be brilliant, and we're going to tap into that.
That's good.
Because I have them doing a literary analysis where throughout the work, they have to keep up with like 8 to 10
Yeah.
pieces of evidence that go with like a topic that they're choosing to research throughout the work. And they're going to try to bring 19th century stuff into 21st century and see where it aligns or where there's a disconnect. And they're already like thinking, and we're only in chapter 2. It's the craziest thing.
Mm, that's so good. We're going to change gears. I want to
Okay.
ask you something. We're going to do a rapid fire exercise. And I've done this with students plenty of times, but I've never done it live on a show. and I'm interested to see the response that I received. So I'm gonna say one or two words, and you got to say the first few things that come to your mind.
Okay, cool.
All right. Student success,
Teacher.
leadership.
Like what type of leadership?
All right, that's the answer. That's the answer. That's the answer. Um, School culture,
Heart.
school failure,
Okay, can it be a phrase?
of course.
The weight of the teacher and admin.
Hmm. Student buy-in.
Mm, Opportunities to be creative.
Walk me through the answers that you just gave and why you chose those words for those responses.
Oh wow. Okay, so what was the first question? Did you remember the first question?
Actually, no. I said academic success.
Oh, okay. I'm almost at that age where I forget stuff. All right. That's 20 wonderful. Okay. Um, so student success is incumbent upon the teacher, and it can be looked at a myriad of ways.
Mhm.
Not just the teacher though, but parents as well. And that's a whole nother thing that we can open up and unpack. But student success, they look to the teachers to be like, you're the one that's in there. You've been with them. You've been teaching. You've done the assessments, formative, summative assessments, reteaching, all of the things that teachers do, right? So then at the end of the day, especially if you teach a tested subject, and I know there are different conversations about tested
Mhm.
subject. Some people say, are you even really teaching? Or I don't teach to the test, or this, and this. Okay, whatever. But my data does show that I teach, I use, and I teach
Mhm.
to the test, and I tell the students about it, and we prepare for it like it's an athletic event,
Right.
and they learn, and these skills travel with them. They're portable. They go with them. They don't forget what I've taught them. They've come back and told me, I used this in college, and I thought it was difficult, but now I'm prepared. Okay, great. So I use the tested subject to prepare you for where you're going.
Mhm.
So that success rate is incumbent upon a community of people, the
Mhm.
teacher, um the parents, and I'm very heavy on in bringing parents into where my class is, because sometimes parents are not involved because they have a disconnect with education. What
Mhm.
was their educational experience like? If they struggle with education, how do you expect them to know how to show up for their kid?
That's good.
you know 80% of students who deal with dyslexia, it's like 80% hereditary. So their parents have maybe that dyslexia or dysgraphia or whatever it is, whatever, with all of the diagnosed and undiagnosed things that are out there. Sometimes parents are dealing with those same things.
Exactly.
And so sometimes we have to have that heart to know that the success really, it's a heavy lift for teachers, but it's really on the teachers, on the school, and bringing parents in to give parents the education that they need to be able to support. So I said that because of that's how I look at it. And I'm not saying that my way is right, and I'm totally open to looking at it in different ways, because there are people who have a lot to say about education, and they have never been in a classroom, and they make major decisions about what directly affects our students.
Mhm.
And sometimes that makes teachers disheartened. They're just very like, we didn't get a say in this, but we're
100%.
most directly impacted. So yeah. What was the second question?
One of the ones that stood out to me is that I said school failure, and you said the weight of admin and teachers.
Yeah. So if success is directly connected to parents and leadership in schools, then the failure of schools is directly connected to teacher performance, teacher teacher know, like what teachers know and how they're able to communicate that to students. And look, like, and I know this goes to one of those questions. Like, there's a weird relationship between teachers and admin. Like, some teachers don't trust admin, and they
Mhm.
look at them like kids look at us like we're ops or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
that's a weird relationship to try to
Yeah.
navigate. So people don't really know how to like really dive into that. I'm never afraid of that. Like, I tell admin, and notice I say tell, because when you have certain skills, you know how to show up.
That's true.
And that's the thing, teachers, make it so that When you show up, they want you. Be
Mm,
so skilled that you get offerings on the spot that they cannot envision their school without you. Be that good. Be that great. Be that good. Build your network up and your net worth so that you're able to go into spaces where you're not intimidated to use your voice with honor and with love and value. So that failure component, teachers feel it heavy, especially when you teach tested subjects. And that's my context. I've taught that for many years. And so the weight of like school performance hinges upon your big four in your building. But the success really, I've also realized that student success and failure really happens. There should be some kind of relationship between your middle school teachers and your high school teachers. There ought to be, and I've never seen this.
mm,
I've never seen in bigger districts. I've seen where they're bringing your secondary teachers, and they do like um, presentations, but they
mm,
don't sit down to let them have conversations. Because what high school sees, that those areas of need that high school sees directly correlate to what is being taught at the middle school level. And then if you take it a step further, the phonic reading issues and fluency issues are directly connected to what's happening in kinder through third, like kindergarten through third grade or pre-K through third grade. Those are crucial time periods that really impact kids by the time I get them. And so that success and failure rate, schools are constantly trying to keep students in places. So you got to have that customer service component. So that failure of making people feel wanted, wanting to be there, like it's so many different touch points of that failure. Like what are you offering people to even want to be in this place?
exactly.
So I feel like that's a heavy weight when it comes to, people don't want to be a part of anything that's like burning. So why would that when that's dying? Like, what are you offering? Are kids going to get a high quality education? And if you have educators in there who don't realize that the impact of presenting grade level, teachers have to be taught in communities or on teams where they're constantly looking at their philosophy of education and how teachers are accessing and entering into their content. I think that those are crucial.
Do you believe that all students have the ability and how do I want to ask this? Do you believe that all students have the ability to be successful?
Absolutely.
Do you
All
believe
students.
that all teachers have the ability to be successful?
I do believe that all teachers have the ability to be successful. Do they want to be successful? Sometimes people choose education because it appears to be the easy way out. And
Interesting.
sometimes people have choose education because there is like something in them that they're trying to fulfill a need of or
Mhm.
for. And then I think it has to do, I think looking at students as successful people will change how you engage with them.
Talk to me more about that.
When you look at them and when you see the connection, when you see that their success is contingent upon your success, when you build the relationship and see it through that lens, then it will be different in how you present things. I mean, if I look at, there is this African concept called Ubuntu, Ubuntu. It's literally I am we, right? If I look at that student as literally mine, then, or they're a part of me, they're an extension of me,
Mm,
that I get to, for 18 weeks, change the trajectory of their life with the words that I get to speak to them to build them. Either I can build them or I can tear them down. And so that's why I say I believe in their success. And I tell them that because they may not have ever heard a person from my position tell them that. But they believe me. For some reason, I start to see the light come on. And when they start to make connections, and I tell them that, do you know how your brain is wired? It's wired for success. Do you know this is your frontal lobe and you have dendrites and synapses? When I start to explain those different things to them, and I said, you have to connect it to something. I said, you came in here with your own set of experiences. Every child in here has their own set of experiences. And it brings value to how you look at what you're looking at. That's why your voice matters. That's why I teach you that we have to speak in this classroom. I want to hear your voice. Even if you repeat what you heard someone else say, that's still valuable because you're learning. And I tell them, like, I point them out. I cold call them. What did you hear? What did you learn today? It doesn't matter. You can repeat what they say. And they start to do it until they develop their voice. Because sometimes they have not been engaged at home.
Mm,
Parents say, I don't know how to talk to my kid. All they want to talk about is video games. Let them talk about video games. And then
exactly.
remember when you play video games, I engage with students and say, I still have my Super Nintendo. And they're like, you're so dated, Miss Daniels. That's okay. But when I do play Black Ops, Call of Duty, and I'm shooting those zombies with my pack a punch, they're like, wait a
Mhm.
minute. You
Exactly.
play that? So that success, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they have an IEP. It doesn't matter if they have a 504. Don't be afraid of any of that. I run my classroom through differentiation anyway. If I make that a part of my culture, it's not going to be hard to teach any student.
Exactly.
Teach and reteach. So hopefully I answered your question.
Oh no, definitely, definitely. And I think there's somebody listening right now that has heard a multitude of value and wisdom and a roadmap for them to be better, not only as educators, but as people in general. And I believe that better people become better educators and produce better results with students.
Yes.
If you had 60 seconds to share to all of the educators out there that are on the fence and want to leave the profession, that have the heart of harvest, that want to create those opportunities for students to be creative and innovative, that are and or at one point were cutting edge, but just they lost that confidence, they lost that grit, they lost that desire to continue to show up. What would you say to them?
I would definitely ask them to remember, like, why did you get into education? You have to remember that. And I know we talk about this. Remember your why. But you literally are in a vocation and a calling that has the opportunity to shape and change the trajectory of someone's life. And so burnout is real. I want you to be able to recognize that you have to be as whole as you possibly can and do the things that build you up to take care of you. Do the mental work, do the mindfulness, do the everything. You have to take care of your health because how you show up matters. You have students are looking to you to be on no matter what. And so doing that internal work, journaling through it, if you're thinking about leaving, I know the salary is not always the best, but there's something in you that's unique, that you have the ability to create something. So tap into the creator part of you, and that point, the part of you that has found that area that needs what you bring and you offer, and create something that works around that, whether it's a course, whether it's a community thing, whether it's working with teachers or creating some kind of workshop. Start to speak to that area of your life that's causing you to want to leave, and create a solution for that problem. And then reassess that and reassess how you can present that and package it to someone else. And then figure out, like, a small network of people that may be feeling what you're feeling, and tap into why they're wanting to leave. Is it because they don't feel supported? Then create the support. Is it because they're feeling like no one is hearing them? Then have courageous conversations with admin and leadership. You can, and don't be disgruntled about it, but figure out a way to frame it in a way that admin can receive it. And that's the thing, that we need to actually kind of have these conversations. You're feeling discomfort because you're really there to answer a problem. You're there to mitigate what is really going on in that environment. And so you are the reason why somebody's life is going to change. You're not just there for students. You're called to be there for your colleagues. You're called to be there for someone's parent. Even building that relationship with parents. If you call and brag on someone's child, especially your problem children, I look for opportunities to call on the spot in my classroom to brag on a child. And you'd be surprised how kids' behavior can change when they know that you're going to call their parent to say, oh my goodness, this child today did something so amazing. I need you to find a way to celebrate them. Get them some ice cream at McDonald's. I'm going to check back with you in a few weeks. And hey, parent, thank you for being amazing, because they couldn't be amazing if they didn't have an amazing parent. And that parent could suck. They could be the most difficult parent in the world. But when you start building and building other people up, it does something for you. And it reminds you of why you got into the job in the first place. So sometimes we need to step away from education. I stepped away from education for 6 months, but something, my eldest child visited um, their high school and they needed an English teacher, and that's how I got right back in it, into teaching. So sometimes we need to really step away and build up, what reassess, like, am I going to do this, or am I going to end up on the news for wilding out or crashing out? So recognizing that you're called to this, and that you're called to answer a problem, that you are the solution to someone's problem, and you don't have to solve everyone's problem, but there is something that you are diametrically created to answer and to solve, that's going to create you some income. So think about that. That's what I would say, and that was longer than 60
Look,
seconds.
it's
That
all
was
good. I just let
longer
you
than
go.
60
I let you
seconds
go. I let you go. And shout out to the people that left education because you was about to crash out. Because there's a lot of people that I know that should have probably before that happened.
Yes,
Qiana, this has been phenomenal. This is this
thank
has been
you.
exactly what I knew it would be.
For real.
Um, oh, 110%.
Wow.
Somebody's still listening right now, and if you're still with us, we appreciate you for still tuning in. My question for you is, what's homework? Give that educational leader that's still tuned in, that teacher that's still tuned in, what's their homework after this episode to go do so that they can start getting those results, so that they can start showing up better?
I would definitely say, think about who is in your teaching network. Start to build your teaching network. So if you do not have your 2 or 3 people that are in education, that you could be like, child, I'm so sick of these lesson plans. Like, do lesson plans, like, are they even worth it? Like, you need somebody you can really chop it up with, and somebody that can, like, you need to build your team, build your personal team. Think of yourself as an educator hero, right? Like, you need your super team. You need your Fab Five that's going to build you. You may have one that's like strong in content. You need a veteran teacher that can help, that's like, that says, hey, I've been doing this for 30 years. Like, I retired from this. You need somebody that's going to like coach you. You need a coach. You need a coach, because they need to walk alongside you. They need to be very much like help you figure out like what you're doing, how you're going to navigate, what's your next plans. And then you need to think about like people that's going to maybe, I don't know who your other two are, but maybe you could figure out who your other two, like, you can build those people, and your other 2 people of your Fab Five group that you're building as an educator, your network, those people who are going to be your community of people, because you can't always vent to people on your job. Maybe you shouldn't do that. I say you shouldn't. You got to show up and have your people who have your back, and definitely tap into to Mr. King,
I got
because
you.
he knows how to access those different areas to help you build, and he's a great thought partner. You maybe your third your fourth person could be just a thought partner. Well, that's a coaching part. That
Mhm.
coaching part has that
Yeah,
thought partner in there. Just build that. Reassess your why. Look at your philosophy. Look at what you can bring to education. Start to look at yourself as a person of value, like what you bring. So your lens, how you see yourself in your teaching context, would be something different, to just like show up differently. And I would definitely say, at least your homework is to at least choose 2 podcasts on education.
that's good.
Delve into something with brain research, because you need to figure out how the brain is wired so that students could actually want to learn. And then maybe, did I say, maybe the last thing is, and I'm almost done. I'm sorry.
All
Maybe I've
good.
got,
All good.
the last thing is, you need to be reading something
Mm,
on education. You need to be reading. It keeps you fresh, because how are you expected to be that expert in your content area if you're not reading, constantly reading something? I told my students, one of my students said this week, I want to be wealthy, but I don't like reading. I said, that doesn't go together.
yeah, that
They're like,
doesn't.
what? I said, they're like, what do you mean, Miss Daniels? I said, have you ever Googled the 50 or 60 books that wealthy people read? And they were like, wait a minute, you just dropped something on me. Wealthy people are reading? Yes.
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 Duh.
So if anybody's still listening, this is what I want you to do. Just like Miss Daniel said, build a network. Build those specific people. What we call it at the Culture Lab is your mirrors, your models, and your maps. So who are the people that can expose the things that you don't want to look at in your mirrors? Those are your mirrors. Who are the things that can model where you need to go? Those are the people that can advance you forward. But then your maps are the people that can actually have the tools to be able to guide you to the place that you're supposed to be going. your mirrors, your models, and your maps. On top of that, she said, you have to subscribe this week, today, to 2 podcasts. And then the third thing, you need to go get you some knowledge. What is a book that you can read, whether it's The Contagious Culture, Creating an Ecosystem of Academic Excellence, whether it's a teaching like a champion, whether it's MC Move the Classroom, whether it's culturally responsive teaching in the brain, whatever it is, you need to go read it. All right. I want to say this, and I ask this every single episode. What kind of culture am I spreading? The energy you bring is the culture you create, and culture is everywhere. This week, make yours worth catching. We'll see you next episode.
Thank you.